She was not supposed to be there. The conference was invitation only. VIP passes. Assigned seating. Security at every door. But the doors opened anyway. And she walked in. Marcus froze at the podium. Mid-sentence. Mid-breath. His hands were on the notes, but his eyes were on the back of the room. 5 years. 5 years since he had seen her face. She looked different. Not smaller. Not broken. Different in the way that a person looks when they have been through fire and came out the other side harder and cleaner and more certain of themselves. She wore a dark blazer. Her hair was natural, pulled back. She walked with her shoulders straight and her chin level. She was not alone. 3 children walked beside her. 2 boys and a girl. All 3 of them small. Maybe 5 years old. Maybe 6. All 3 of them with his eyes. His nose. His exact shade of brown skin. The entire ballroom went silent. 800 people stopped talking at the same time. Heads turned. Chairs scraped. Someone dropped a phone and didn't pick it up. Then Camille stood up from the second row. She turned and looked at the children. Then she looked at the stage. Her voice was not quiet. Marcus. The word echoed off the walls. Who are those children? Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Marcus stood at the podium with his hands on his notes and his mouth open and no words coming out. He was looking at 3 children who had his face. And he did not know their names. But before we get into the full story, drop a comment and let me know where you are watching from and what time it is there right now. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. And let's go back to the beginning. We need to talk about your wife. Marcus Reed looked up from his laptop. It was a Tuesday afternoon in October. The light outside his office window was golden and flat. Baltimore in autumn. The harbor was visible from where he sat. Boats. Water. The kind of view that reminded you how far you had come. Daniel Hargrove stood in the doorway. Daniel was the chairman of the board at Nexus Capital. He was 62 years old. He had white hair and cold blue eyes and a handshake that felt like a business transaction. He wore a dark suit every single day. Marcus had never seen him in anything else. Right now? Marcus asked. Right now, Daniel said. The board is waiting upstairs. Marcus closed his laptop. He had been expecting a meeting. Everyone at Nexus Capital knew the announcement was coming. For 3 months, the whispers had been the same. Marcus Reed was going to be named CEO, the youngest chief executive in the firm's history. 31 years old. Started as an analyst. Worked his way to the top. It was a good story. Everyone liked a good story. Marcus stood up. He took his jacket from the back of his chair. He followed Daniel to the elevator without speaking. They rode up to the 40th floor in silence. Marcus looked at his reflection in the elevator doors. He saw a man in a well-fitted suit. Composed. Ready. He did not see the boy from West Philadelphia who used to wear shoes with holes in the soles because his parents couldn't afford new ones. That boy was gone. That was the whole point. The elevator opened. Daniel walked ahead down a wide hallway with dark carpet and framed photographs of the firm's past leaders along the walls. Marcus had walked this hallway 100 times. He knew every face in every frame. He had always imagined his own face joining them someday. The conference room was at the end of the hall. Glass on 3 sides. You could see inside from 20 feet away. 7 board members sat around a long rectangular table. 4 men and 3 women. Between them they controlled more capital than the GDP of several small countries. Marcus knew all of them by name, by background, by the things they cared about and the things they feared. Daniel opened the door. Marcus, please sit down. Marcus sat in the empty chair at the far end of the table. The same chair where junior executives sat when they were being evaluated. He noticed that. He chose not to react to it. Nobody smiled at him. Patricia Wells sat to Daniel's right. She was 67 years old and owned more Nexus stock than anyone else at the table. She had white hair cut close to her head and a way of looking at people that made them feel like they were being read. "We have concerns," Daniel said. "About what?" Marcus asked. "About Elena," Patricia said. Marcus felt something tighten in his chest. "My wife," he said. "Your wife?" Daniel confirmed. Marcus said nothing. He waited. That was something he had learned over 10 years at Nexus Capital. When powerful people were about to say something you didn't want to hear, you did not fill the silence. You made them say it out loud. In full. With no help from you. Patricia opened a folder in front of her. "Elena Reed," she said. Born Elena Winters. Grew up in the Sandtown neighborhood of Baltimore. Mother worked as a home health aide. Father was incarcerated when Elena was 9 years old. She attended public school. Received a partial scholarship to Morgan State University. Graduated with a degree in education. Has been teaching 4th grade at Westside Elementary School for 6 years. She closed the folder. She is currently earning $43,000 per year. Marcus looked at her. "I know where my wife works," he said, "and what she earns." "We are not questioning her character," Daniel said. He leaned forward slightly. "Elena is clearly a dedicated and admirable woman. But Marcus, when you become CEO of Nexus Capital, your life changes in ways that go beyond your job title. You will represent this firm at the highest levels. Government hearings. International conferences. Dinners with heads of state and heads of industry. The person beside you at every one of those events becomes part of what this firm projects to the world." "She is my wife," Marcus said again. "Not a prop." "Everything is a message," Patricia said quietly, "whether we intend it to be or not." Daniel folded his hands on the table. He looked at Marcus the way a man looks at someone he respects but has already made a decision about. "We are prepared to offer you the position of Chief Executive Officer of Nexus Capital," he said. "Effective the 1st of next month. Base salary of $3.2 million per year. Performance bonuses. Stock options currently valued at approximately $14 million. A seat on the board." Marcus looked at the folder Daniel slid across the table. He did not open it. "There is one condition," Daniel said. The room was completely quiet. "And the marriage," Daniel said. Marcus heard the words. He understood them. He sat with them for a moment the way you sit with something very heavy before you try to pick it up. "You are asking me to divorce my wife," he said. "We are asking you to make a decision that is in the best interest of your future and this firm," Patricia said. "Those are not the same thing," Marcus said. "They could be," Daniel said. Nobody spoke for a moment. "You have 2 weeks," Daniel said. "That is all." The meeting ended. Marcus rode the elevator back down to his office alone. He stood at his window for a long time. The harbor was still out there. The boats were still moving. The water was still flat and golden in the afternoon light. Everything looked exactly the same. Nothing was the same. Marcus and Elena had met 7 years ago at a community meeting in East Baltimore. Marcus had been sent by the firm to represent Nexus Capital at a neighborhood investment forum. It was the kind of thing junior analysts were sent to do. Low priority. Good for optics. He had not wanted to go. Elena was there because the school where she taught was losing its after-school program funding. She had organized a group of parents and teachers to attend the meeting and speak. She had prepared materials. She had practiced what she was going to say. When she stood up to speak, the room paid attention. She was not loud. She did not perform emotion. She just told the truth clearly and specifically and without apology, and the truth was hard to ignore. Marcus watched her from across the room and thought, that is someone who is not afraid of the right people being uncomfortable. He introduced himself afterward. She shook his hand and said, "Are you going to do anything useful or just write a report?" He laughed. She didn't. He liked that. They dated for 2 years before he proposed. He took her to the restaurant on the top floor of a hotel downtown. The kind of place with white tablecloths and a wine list the size of a small book and a view of the whole city. Elena looked at the menu and said, "This is a lot of money for a salad." Marcus laughed again. She was the only person who made him laugh like that. Without trying. Without even meaning to. He got down on one knee between the appetizer and the main course. The ring was simple. A single diamond, round cut, modest setting. He had picked it himself. He knew she would not want something enormous. She was not someone who wanted to be looked at. She wanted to be known. She said yes, and then she looked at the ring on her hand, and then she looked at him and said, "You're going to be a lot of work, you know that?" "I know," he said. "Okay," she said. "Let's eat." They had been married for 3 years when Daniel Hargrove stood in his doorway and told him the board had concerns. 3 years of Thursday night dinners. 3 years of her reading in bed with her glasses on while he worked on his laptop beside her. 3 years of waking up to the smell of coffee she had already made. 3 years of arguments that were actually conversations in disguise. 3 years of knowing that when he came home, someone was genuinely glad he was there. Not glad because of his title or his salary or his potential. Glad because it was him. He sat in his office after the board meeting and thought about all of it. He thought about the ring he had picked out himself. He thought about the question she had asked him at their first dinner. "Are you going to do anything useful or just write a report?" He thought about the $3.2 million. He thought about the stock options. He thought about his mother sewing under a flickering lamp. He thought about the school trip to Washington, D.C. that he couldn't go on because his family didn't have $80. He sat there for a very long time. He didn't tell Elena about the meeting that night. She made pasta and asked about his day. He said it was fine. She told him about a student in her class who had finally learned to read his own name that day and how she had cried in the supply closet afterward because she didn't want him to see her cry. "You cried because a kid learned to read his name?" Marcus said. "You would have cried too," she said. He looked at her across the dinner table. She was still in her school clothes. There was a small smear of blue marker on her right hand that she hadn't noticed. She was twirling pasta around her fork and talking about her student with the same energy and focus she brought to everything. Marcus looked at her and thought, "I would be an absolute fool." He pushed the thought away. He ate his pasta. He said goodnight. He lay in the dark and stared at the ceiling until 3 in the morning. The week passed slowly. Marcus went to the office every day. He attended meetings. He reviewed documents. He had conversations about quarterly returns and regulatory filings and market positioning. He called Elena every evening from his desk. She always answered on the second ring. She always sounded glad it was him. He thought about telling her. Several times he opened his mouth and the words were right there. The board said, "The condition is, I don't know what to do." He never said any of it. On the 9th day, Marcus sat in his car in the parking garage of Nexus Capital for 45 minutes after everyone else had gone home. He thought about his father. His father had worked at a warehouse for 18 years. Loading and unloading. 6 days a week. Until his back gave out and he couldn't work anymore. He was 53 years old when that happened. After that, things in the house changed in ways nobody talked about but everyone felt. Marcus had promised himself he would not end up like that. Not broken. Not used up. Not sitting in a house where the heat sometimes got turned off in January because the bill was 3 months behind. He thought about what that promise had cost him. He thought about what it was about to cost him. He started the car. He drove home. Elena was in bed reading when he got there. She looked up over her glasses. "Late night," she said. "Yeah," he said. She went back to her book. He stood in the doorway of their bedroom and looked at her for a moment. The lamp was on. She had her feet tucked under her. There was a cup of tea on the nightstand going cold. "Elena," he said. She looked up. "Nothing," he said. "Just checking you were real." She gave him a look. "Get some sleep," she said. He did not sleep. He told her on a Saturday morning. They were at the kitchen table. She had made eggs. He had made coffee. The window was open and the October air was coming in cool and clean. He put down his mug. He said, "I think we want different things." Elena set down her fork. She looked at him. "What did you just say?" she asked. Her voice was quiet. Very quiet. The kind of quiet that is not calm at all. "I've been thinking about our future," Marcus said. He had rehearsed this. He had actually written it down and rehearsed it like a speech. "I think we're going in different directions. I think it might be better for both of us." "Stop," she said. He stopped. "Look at me," she said. He looked at her. She studied his face for a long moment. Her eyes moved across his features the way they did when she was reading something and looking for the meaning underneath the words. "You're lying," she said. "Elena, you are lying to me right now," she said. "And I know you are because in 7 years I have never heard you sound like that. Like you're reading off a card." He said nothing. "What happened?" she asked. What actually happened? He wanted to tell her. He wanted to tell her everything. The meeting on the 40th floor. The folder with her name on it. The $43,000 a year they had noted like it was evidence of something. Patricia Wells reading her father's incarceration record across a conference table like it was relevant data. He wanted to say, "They told me to choose and I don't know what I'm doing." Instead he said, "This is for the best." Elena looked at him for a long, long time. Then she took off her wedding ring. She set it on the table between them. She stood up. She picked up her plate and her mug and took them to the sink. She washed them carefully. She dried her hands on the dish towel hanging from the oven handle. She walked to the bedroom. She did not slam the door. That was almost worse. Marcus sat at the kitchen table alone and looked at the ring. It was a small ring. Simple. A single diamond. He had picked it out himself because he knew she would not want something enormous. He knew what she wanted. He knew her. He sat there for 2 hours without moving. Then he picked up his phone and called his lawyer. The divorce was finalized 5 weeks later. 4 days after that, Daniel Hargrove shook Marcus's hand in the conference room on the 40th floor. "Welcome, Mr. Reed," Daniel said. "We are pleased to make it official." The contract was 3 pages long. Marcus signed it without reading it. His hand was completely steady. He did not know how that was possible. The announcement went out on a Thursday morning. Marcus Reed named CEO of Nexus Capital. Age 31. Youngest chief executive in firm history. By Friday afternoon his name had appeared in the Wall Street Journal, Forbes, Bloomberg, the Baltimore Sun, and 42 other publications. His assistant brought him printouts in a folder. He read them all. They called him a success story. They called him proof that hard work was enough. They called him the American dream. He read every word. He felt nothing. The corner office was twice the size of his old one. Floor-to-ceiling windows on 2 sides. A view of the entire harbor. A desk that had been custom-made for whoever occupied this room. Marcus moved his things in on a Monday morning. It took less than an hour. He had almost nothing personal. A few books. His diplomas. A photograph of his parents taken at his college graduation. He put the photograph on the desk. He sat down. He looked out the window at the harbor. He thought, "I made it." He thought, "So why does it feel like this?" He turned on his computer and went to work. The first year was relentless. Marcus worked 16-hour days. He attended board meetings and investor calls and regulatory hearings. He traveled to New York and Washington and London and Tokyo. He gave speeches and interviews. He appeared on television. Business schools invited him to speak to their students. He blocked Elena's number 3 weeks after the divorce was finalized. He told his assistant to delete any emails from her without opening them. He told building security that his ex-wife did not have access to the building. He told himself it was cleaner this way. He told himself she would be better off. He told himself a lot of things late at night when he was alone in his apartment and the city was quiet and he was out of other things to think about. He pushed those things away. He went to sleep. He woke up and went back to work. In March, 14 months after the divorce, Daniel introduced Marcus to Camille Ashford at a charity gala. The event was at a hotel on the waterfront. Black tie. Open bar. The kind of room where everyone was performing for everyone else, and all of them knew it. Camille was standing near the bar talking to a senator when Daniel brought Marcus over. She was tall and very beautiful in the way of people who have always been told they are beautiful and have learned to move through the world accordingly. She had light brown skin and dark eyes and a smile that was warm and precise at the same time. Camille Ashford, Daniel said, "This is Marcus Reed." "So?" Camille held out her hand. "I know who you are," she said. "I read the Forbes piece. You left out the interesting parts." "Everyone leaves out the interesting parts," Marcus said. She smiled. They talked for 40 minutes. She was the daughter of Senator William Ashford of Maryland. She had a law degree from Georgetown and a master's from Oxford. She sat on 3 nonprofit boards and ran a foundation focused on housing equity. She was 30 years old and had been running in these circles her whole life. She was sharp. Genuinely sharp. She saw through things quickly and didn't pretend she hadn't. Marcus liked her. Daniel pulled him aside when Camille stepped away to greet someone. "She is exactly what this firm needs beside you," Daniel said quietly. "Her father is on the appropriations committee. Her network alone opens doors we've been knocking on for years. And she presents well." Marcus looked across the room to where Camille was now laughing at something an older man had said. "I'll call her," Marcus said. "Good," Daniel said. They dated for 11 months. The relationship was comfortable in the way of 2 people who understand each other's worlds. Camille knew what it meant to be at a dinner where 4 conversations were happening at once and all of them mattered. She knew how to be at an event. She knew what to say and when to say it and when to say nothing at all. She was also, Marcus would discover, funny and unexpectedly warm in private. She cared about her foundation's work in ways that went beyond the optics. She had strong opinions about movies and weaker ones about music and absolutely no patience for people who talked about wine for more than 30 seconds. Marcus enjoyed being with her. He did not think about Elena when he was with Camille. He worked very hard at that. He proposed to Camille on a Tuesday night at a restaurant in Washington, D.C. The ring was larger than the one he had given Elena. It had to be. Different woman. Different life. Different everything. Camille said yes and held up her hand and admired the ring under the restaurant lights and then said, "My publicist is going to want a photo." "Right now," Marcus said. "Tomorrow," she said. "Tonight is just us." He liked that. The wedding was in Napa Valley the following June. 300 guests. A tent full of white flowers and string lights. Camille wore a dress designed by someone Marcus had never heard of that cost more than his parents' car. Marcus wore a custom suit. His mother flew in from Philadelphia. She hugged him before the ceremony and held his face in both her hands and looked at him for a long time. "You look like your father did at your age," she said. "Is that good?" Marcus asked. "It's true," she said. "Be happy, baby. That's all." "I am," he told her. She nodded slowly. She didn't say anything else. They moved into a penthouse apartment in downtown Baltimore. For bedrooms. a chef's kitchen, a terrace that overlooked the harbor. Marcus bought things. The right things. The things that went in a home like this. Art that people recognized. Furniture with names. A car that people turned to look at in parking lots. He and Camille attended events together. They held hands in photographs. They said the right things in interviews. The board was pleased. The stock price continued to climb. Everyone said they looked perfect together. Marcus said thank you and meant some of it. 3 more years passed. Marcus was 35 now. Nexus Capital had grown every quarter under his leadership. He had overseen 3 major acquisitions and 1 government partnership that had earned the firm significant regulatory goodwill. He had been on the cover of 2 national business magazines. He and Camille were fine. Fine was the word that came to mind most often when he thought about his marriage. Fine meant functional. Fine meant no major problems. Fine meant they lived in the same beautiful apartment and attended the same events and had the same conversations and did not deeply wound each other. Fine was not bad. Fine was just not anything else either. Camille traveled often for her foundation work. Marcus traveled for business. When they were both home at the same time, they ate dinner at the long table and talked about their schedules and watched things on television that neither of them would have chosen alone. They were not unhappy. They were not particularly happy either. Marcus stood on their terrace sometimes at night after Camille had gone to sleep and looked at the harbor and thought about things he told himself he wasn't thinking about. He always went back inside eventually. He always went to sleep. In January, Marcus accepted an invitation to speak at the National Finance Leadership Summit in Atlanta. It was one of the largest business conferences in the country. 800 attendees. Every major financial institution represented. 2 days of panels and keynotes and dinners and the kind of conversations that happened in hallways outside of official sessions. Marcus was the Friday evening keynote. The speech was called, "What It Actually Costs to Succeed." He had been working on it for 3 weeks. Camille said she wanted to come. "The AP will be covering it," she said. "And I have a meeting in Atlanta on Thursday anyway. I'll just stay." "Sure," Marcus said. They flew down on a Thursday afternoon and checked into the conference hotel in Midtown. The hotel was tall and glass-fronted, and the lobby had the particular kind of expensive silence that meant everyone inside it had somewhere important to be. Marcus's name was on a banner near the entrance. Marcus Reed, CEO, Nexus Capital, Friday keynote. Camille photographed it and sent it to her publicist. Their suite was on the 22nd floor. 2 bedrooms, a sitting room, floor-to-ceiling windows looking out over the Atlanta skyline. Camille went to her meeting Thursday afternoon. Marcus sat at the desk in the sitting room and went through his speech one more time. The words were good. He had worked hard on them. He talked about sacrifice and discipline and the things nobody tells you about the view from the top. He talked about his father's warehouse job. He talked about the school trip he couldn't afford. He talked about the things he had given up. He had written around Elena carefully. He had not named her. He had not described her. But the giving up part of the speech was built around the choice he had made, and he knew it, and sometimes when he read it back he felt something that was very close to shame. He told himself the speech was honest in its own way. He moved on. Friday evening arrived. Marcus dressed in his room. Dark suit. White shirt. No tie. Camille came out of the second bedroom in a red blazer and black trousers and looked exactly like what she was, a woman who was very comfortable in rooms like the one they were about to walk into. "How do I look?" Marcus asked. "Like a so," she said. They took the elevator down together. The main ballroom was on the 2nd floor. Marcus could hear the crowd from the hallway. 800 people in formal business where the hum of conversation that rose and fell like something alive. The conference director, a woman named Jennifer Park, met them outside the doors. She was organized and efficient and seemed to be running on 4 times the normal amount of human energy. "Mr. Reed," she said, "we are so glad you're here. We have you on at 7:30. Your wife's seat is third row aisle. Will you need water on stage?" "Please," Marcus said. "We'll take care of everything." Camille went to her seat. Marcus went backstage. He stood in the wing with his notes in his hand and listened to the noise of the crowd. He was not nervous. He was never nervous before speeches anymore. That had stopped being true years ago. Now he just felt a kind of steadiness that came from having done a thing enough times that your body understood what was required. At 7:15, Jennifer found him. "We're ready, Mr. Reed." Marcus nodded. Jennifer walked out on stage first. The room settled. He heard her introduce him. Youngest CEO in Nexus Capital history, youngest, and so on, the things that always got said. He heard the applause begin. He walked out. The lights were bright. The audience was a sea of faces, and the front rows were close enough that he could see individual expressions. Camille was in the third row in her red blazer. She gave him a small nod. Marcus stepped to the podium. He set his notes down. "Good evening," he said. "I want to talk tonight about what it actually costs to succeed." The room was very quiet. He was 2 minutes into the speech when the doors at the back of the ballroom opened. He noticed it the way you notice a change in light in a room. Something different at the edge of your attention. He did not stop speaking immediately. He was in the middle of a sentence about his father's warehouse job. Then he looked up. And he stopped. The woman who walked in was wearing a charcoal blazer and dark trousers. Her hair was natural, pulled back from her face. She walked down the side aisle with her head up and her pace steady, the way a person walks when they have somewhere to be and do not need anyone's permission to be there. The way Elena had always walked. Because it was Elena. 5 years. 5 years since he had seen her face, and she looked both exactly the same and entirely different. The same eyes. The same line of her jaw. The same way of moving through space that always made him feel like she was the most present person in any room she entered. But something had changed in her. Something had solidified. She looked like someone who had been tested and had not been found wanting and now knew it. Marcus held the podium. He did not speak. He noticed the children. They were walking beside her. 3 of them. 2 boys and a girl, all of them small and close to her, one holding each of her hands and the third walking just half a step behind. They were young. 5, maybe 6. They had his eyes. His nose. His exact coloring. The girl had a small birthmark on her left cheek in the same place Marcus had a small birthmark on his left cheek. The ballroom went silent. Not gradually. All at once. Like someone had turned off the sound. 800 people stopped talking and turned to look at the woman walking down the side aisle with 3 children who looked exactly like the man standing frozen at the podium. Then Camille stood up. She turned around in her seat. She looked at the children. Her face changed. "Marcus." Her voice filled the entire room. Clear and hard and loud enough that the people in the back row heard it as clearly as the people in the front. "Who are those children?" Someone took a photo. The flash went off. Then another. Then 4 more. Phones came out all across the ballroom. The sound of the room changed from silence to a low, rising murmur, the sound of 800 people turning to their neighbors and saying, "Did you see that? Did you see?" Marcus could not speak. He was looking at the girl's birthmark. Exactly where his was. Elena walked calmly to a seat in the 4th row. There was a small reserved placard on it with her name printed on it. She sat down. The children arranged themselves around her. 1 boy on each side. The girl in her lap for a moment and then settling into the seat next to her. Elena reached into her bag and took out a conference program. She opened it and began to read it, as if nothing unusual had happened, as if she had not just walked into a room with 800 people and 3 children who had Marcus's face. Marcus's notes were in front of him, but he couldn't see them. He could hear Camille's voice from the third row. He could hear the crowd. He could hear the blood in his own ears. He could not make himself speak. Jennifer Park appeared at the edge of the stage. She made a gesture. He understood it. He nodded once. Jennifer stepped to the microphone. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a brief intermission. Thank you for your patience. The rest of what she said was swallowed by the noise of 800 people all moving and talking at once. Marcus walked off the stage. He went backstage and stood against the wall in the dark and breathed. 3 children. His eyes. His nose. His exact bone structure reproduced 3 times in miniature and walking beside Elena through the ballroom doors. He did the math. He had been doing it since the moment he saw them, and his whole body already knew the answer. The divorce had been finalized 5 years ago. The children were approximately 5 years old. Marcus put his back against the wall and closed his eyes. He heard Camille's voice somewhere in the main room, high and tight and asking questions that no one was answering. He heard phones. People talking. The particular noise of a situation that was already spreading beyond the room it started in. He did not move for several minutes. Then he went to find Elena. She was in the lobby. He saw her from across the marble floor. She was standing near the large windows that looked out over the street, 3 stories up. The city was lit below her. The children were around her. One boy was sitting on the floor trying to untie his shoe. The girl was pressed against Elena's side, one arm around Elena's waist. The other boy was looking at Marcus. He had been looking at Marcus since Marcus walked into the lobby. Marcus walked toward them. His legs were steady. His face was composed. The rest of him was not. He stopped about 10 feet away. Elena. She turned. Her face was a closed door. Marcus, she said. It was the same voice. After 5 years, it was exactly the same voice. He had worked so hard not to hear it, and now it was in his ears, and he couldn't make it go away. He looked at the children. The boy who had been watching him was still watching him. He had Marcus's eyes set in Elena's face, and the combination was something Marcus was not prepared for. Are they? He started. He couldn't finish the sentence. Yes, Elena said. One word. Marcus heard it and already knew it was true, and it landed in him anyway like something breaking loose. Tell me their names, he said. Elena looked at him for a moment. Then she turned and placed her hand on the girl pressed against her side. This is Grace. Grace looked at Marcus. She had the birthmark. She had his eyes and Elena's expression, and she was holding her mother's waist very tightly. Elena placed her hand on the boy who had been watching Marcus. This is Caleb. Caleb did not look away. He was the most serious child Marcus had ever seen. He looked at Marcus the way Elena had always looked at things she was still deciding about. And this, Elena looked at the boy still working on his shoe. Isaiah. Come here, baby. Isaiah looked up from his shoe. He stood up. He walked over and tucked himself under Elena's arm and looked at Marcus with something that was either curiosity or suspicion or both. Hi, Isaiah said. Hi, Marcus said. His voice was not steady. He looked back at Elena. When, he managed. I found out 6 weeks after the divorce was finalized, she said. Marcus felt the floor move. 6 weeks, he repeated. 6 weeks, Elena said. She said it the way she always said hard things. Without drama. Without looking away. Like she had carried it long enough that it no longer surprised her, only settled into her bones like something permanent. I called you, she said. I blocked your number, Marcus said. He heard himself say it. He wished he hadn't. He wished he could take it back to a moment before he had to say those words out loud. I know, Elena said. I called from other numbers. I called from my mother's phone. I called from the school's phone line. Your assistant told me each time that you were unavailable and to please not call again. Marcus said nothing. I sent emails, she said. 17 of them over the course of about 3 months. Your out of office never changed. I don't know if you ever saw them. I didn't, he said. That was not entirely true. He had seen the first one. His assistant had flagged it, briefly, before he told her to delete anything from that address without opening it. He did not say that. I came to the building, Elena said. Twice. I stood in the lobby and asked security to let me up. Both times they told me I wasn't on the approved visitor list. Marcus had issued those instructions personally. 1 week after the divorce. He had sat in his new corner office and thought about clean breaks and moving forward and told his head of security to remove Elena's name from the building access list. He had not thought about why she might be trying to reach him. He had not let himself think about it. The second time I came, Elena said, I was showing. Not a lot, but enough. I thought if someone saw me, she stopped. She looked at Caleb, who was still watching Marcus. I thought it might change something. I'm sorry, Marcus said. I know, she said. I'm not telling you this to make you feel bad. I'm telling you because you asked. He looked at the children again. Grace had loosened her grip on Elena's waist slightly. She was watching Marcus with serious, assessing eyes. Isaiah had found something interesting on the floor near his feet and was investigating it with his shoe. Caleb had not stopped looking at Marcus since Marcus walked in. How did you manage? Marcus asked. Elena's expression shifted slightly. Not softening. More like something sharpening. I went home to my mother's, she said. I was already 4 months along by the time I accepted that you were not going to respond. My mother took me in. She took unpaid leave from her job when the babies came. She was there for the first 11 months. 11 months, Marcus said. And then she had to go back to work, Elena said. So I had to figure something else out. She said it plainly. No bitterness in her voice. Just the facts of a story she had told herself enough times that she knew exactly which parts mattered. I was teaching until I was 7 months along, she said. I had 31 fourth graders and I was on my feet 6 hours a day and I was exhausted in a way that I don't have the right words for. But I needed the income. I needed the health insurance. I needed to keep going. Marcus looked at her. She looked back at him. I went into labor on a Wednesday evening, she said. My mother drove me to the hospital. She stayed as long as she could. But visiting hours ended and they made her leave and she paused. Just a breath. I had them on my own. The 3 of them. On a Thursday morning at 4:18 a.m. You were alone, Marcus said. I was alone, she said. Elena, I'm not asking for an apology, she said. I'm answering your question. You asked how I managed. He nodded. I held them, she said. The nurse put them in my arms one at a time. Caleb first. Then Grace. Then Isaiah. And I looked at each of them and I thought, this is what there is. This is what we're doing. She looked down at Caleb. Caleb had finally looked away from Marcus. He was watching his mother now. I started my business from my mother's kitchen, Elena said, consulting for school districts and nonprofits on curriculum development and community partnerships. I already knew the field. I knew the people. I knew what the problems were. I just had to build the business around it. While taking care of 3 newborns, Marcus said. While taking care of 3 newborns, she confirmed. I worked when they slept. I worked during nap time. I worked at 2 in the morning when they were fed and back down, and I had 2 hours before the next one woke up. My mother helped as much as she could. Some months were very hard. How is the business now? Marcus asked. Elena looked at him. We have 22 employees, she said. We work with 63 school districts across 11 states. Last year's revenue was $4.3 million. She said it the way you say something when you know it's impressive and you've decided not to be humble about it. Because you built it yourself and you were not required to be modest. That is remarkable, Marcus said. Yes, she said simply. It is. Caleb tugged on Elena's sleeve. Mom, he said. I'm hungry. I know, baby. She touched the back of his head. 10 more minutes. Caleb looked at Marcus. Are you the man from the stage? He asked. Yes, Marcus said. Why did you stop talking? Marcus looked at Elena. Elena's expression did not change. Because I saw your mom, Marcus said. And I was surprised. Caleb considered this. Did you know her before? He asked. Yes, Marcus said. A long time ago. Caleb looked at his mother. Then back at Marcus. The calculation happening behind his eyes was very visible. Are you our dad? He asked. The lobby was very quiet around them. Elena was watching Marcus. Yes, Marcus said. I am. Caleb was quiet for a moment. Then he said, Why weren't you there? Marcus got down on one knee. He had done a lot of things in his life that required composure. Board meetings, congressional hearings, crisis calls. Things where falling apart was not an option. This was the hardest thing he had ever done. He looked Caleb in the eye. I made a mistake, he said. A very bad one. I made a choice that I should not have made, and because of that choice I wasn't there. And I'm sorry. I know sorry doesn't fix it. But I am. Caleb looked at him for a long time. Okay, he said finally. Okay. Marcus said. Okay, Caleb said again. And then he went back to pulling on Elena's sleeve about being hungry, because he was 5 years old and he had asked his question and gotten an answer, and that was apparently sufficient for now. Marcus stood back up. His knees were shaking slightly. Elena was watching him. We need to go up, she said. It's past their bedtime. Can I? Marcus stopped. Can we talk more? Tomorrow? Elena looked at him. I'm leaving tomorrow morning, she said. I was here for a panel I'm no longer able to give because of what just happened in that ballroom. She paused. I'll call you in a few days, Marcus. Give me a few days. Okay, he said. And Marcus. Yes. Get your wife, she said. She looked like she needed someone. Then she pressed the elevator button and the doors opened and she walked in with Caleb and Grace and Isaiah, and the doors closed. Marcus stood in the lobby alone. Camille was in their suite. She was sitting on the couch with her blazer off and her arms folded, and she looked at Marcus when he came in the way a person looks at someone they have just decided they do not fully recognize. Sit down, she said. He sat. Are they yours? She asked. Yes, he said. She nodded once, slowly, like someone confirming something they already knew. How long have you known? She asked. I found out 2 hours ago, he said. Same time you did. She looked at him carefully. You had no idea. I had no idea. Another long pause. Who is she to you? Camille asked. Marcus looked at his hands. I was married before, he said. Before us. For 3 years. I didn't tell you because... He stopped. Because it wasn't something I talked about. You were married before and you didn't tell me, Camille said. Yes. And she is your children's mother. Yes. Another long pause. Camille sat very still for a moment. Then she stood up. She went to the second bedroom. She came back with her suitcase, already packed. Marcus looked at it. Camille, I'm not angry at you for the children, she said. I understand you didn't know. I believe that. She picked up her blazer from the couch. I'm angry because you looked me in the face and decided I didn't need to know you'd been married. I'm angry because whatever happened between you and Elena is clearly something you've been carrying and pretending you weren't, and I've been sitting across from that for 4 years without knowing what I was looking at. She put on her blazer. I need some time, she said. I'm going to stay with my friend who lives here. Don't call me tonight. Okay, he said. She went to the door. She stopped with her hand on the handle. For what it's worth, she said, I hope you figure it out. For their sake. She left. Marcus sat in the suite alone. His phone was vibrating almost continuously. He looked at the screen. Missed calls. Text messages. Email notifications. His assistant. Board members. Journalists whose numbers he recognized. People from his college years, his early career, his life. The photo had already gone out. He opened his phone and looked. It was everywhere. The shot from the ballroom. Marcus at the podium, hands gripping the edges, face frozen. Elena in the background walking down the side aisle with 3 children whose resemblance to the man at the podium was visible even in a photograph taken across a large room with motion blur. The caption on the most shared version read, "The real story behind the success." There were already 100,000 shares. Marcus put his phone face down on the table. He went to the window and looked out at the Atlanta skyline. He thought about Caleb asking him, "Why weren't you there?" He thought about Elena in a hospital at 4 in the morning. He thought about the folder Patricia Wells had opened on the conference table. Elena Winters. Mother worked as a home health aide. Father incarcerated when Elena was 9. He thought about the board's voice when they said she doesn't fit the image. He thought about what the image had cost him. Daniel Hargrove called at 6:30 the next morning. Marcus had not slept. Get on the first flight to Baltimore, Daniel said. The board convenes at noon. Say nothing to anyone between now and then. No press. No statements. No social media. Nothing. Understood, Marcus said. The stock opened down 4% in pre-market trading, Daniel said. I'll see you at noon, Marcus said. He hung up. He packed his bag. He went to the airport. The flight to Baltimore was 1 hour and 10 minutes. Marcus sat in the window seat and looked at the clouds and thought about 3 children in a hotel lobby and a woman who had built a $4 million business from her mother's kitchen while taking care of triplets alone. He thought about the choice he had made 5 years ago. He thought about the boy from West Philadelphia who was so afraid of going back to nothing that he had made himself into someone who could sit across from the woman he loved and say we want different things and mean none of it. He had been so afraid of being poor again that he had become something else instead. He looked at his hands. He landed in Baltimore. He went directly from the airport to the Nexus Capitol building. The lobby was quiet at 11 a.m. on a Saturday. A skeleton crew. Security at the desk. Marcus nodded to the guard and went to the elevator. He rode up to the 40th floor. The conference room was at the end of the hall. He could see through the glass. The board was already assembled. All 8 of them. Same chairs. Same table. Same view of the harbor. Same room where 5 years ago they had placed a folder in front of him with Elena's background printed inside it. Daniel looked up when Marcus came in. Sit down, he said. Marcus sat. The stock is down 6% as of this morning, Patricia said. She did not greet him. In 14 hours. I know, Marcus said. The firm's reputation, I know, Marcus said again. Daniel looked at him. The board met this morning before you arrived, Daniel said. We took a vote. Marcus waited. We are removing you as Chief Executive Officer of Nexus Capital, effective today, Daniel said. The official statement will be issued this afternoon. We wish you well in your future endeavors. He said it the way you say something you've practiced saying. Marcus looked at him. He looked around the table. He looked at the harbor through the window. Then he said, 5 years ago you sat in this room and told me to end my marriage to Elena Winters. You opened a folder with her background in it and you told me she didn't fit the image. You gave me 2 weeks. Nobody spoke. I did what you asked, Marcus said. I ended my marriage to a woman I loved because I was afraid of losing this job, and I told myself I was being practical, and I told myself it was for the best, and I spent 5 years trying to believe that. Marcus, Daniel began. I'm not finished, Marcus said. Daniel stopped. While I was here being your Marcus said, Elena was pregnant with my children. My children. She tried to tell me. She called from multiple numbers. She came to this building twice. She sent 17 emails. I had made it so she couldn't reach me. I arranged not to know. He paused. You didn't make me do that. That was me. I made that choice. He looked at Daniel directly. But the original choice, he said. The choice to end the marriage. That was your ultimatum. You told me she didn't fit the image. And I believed you. I believed that the image was worth more than she was. That was the worst mistake of my life. This is not the time, Patricia began. You're removing me anyway, Marcus said. So this is exactly the time. He stood up. He placed his access badge on the table. I quit, he said. Before your paperwork catches up with me. He picked up his jacket. For what it's worth, he said, the image wasn't worth it. I hope you find someone for whom it is. He walked out. His corner office took 9 minutes to clear. There was almost nothing personal there. He had kept it that way deliberately without ever quite knowing why. A photograph of his parents. His diplomas. A small plant his assistant had given him 2 Christmases ago that he had somehow kept alive. He put them in a box. He carried it to the elevator. The lobby was quiet. The guard at the security desk started to speak. I'll need my building pass back, Mr. Reed. I left it upstairs, Marcus said. He walked out into the Baltimore morning. He stood on the sidewalk with his box and his jacket and no plan. The harbor was visible from where he stood. It had always been visible from here. He had looked at it from every window of this building for 4 years. He turned away from it and walked to the parking garage. He sat in his car for a while. Then he drove home. The penthouse was quiet. Camille had taken most of her things. Her side of the closet was empty. Her books were gone from the shelves. The items on her dressing table that he had always thought of as just part of the furniture were no longer there, and their absence made the room look different. A message from her lawyer was already in his email. He deleted it. He stood in the kitchen and made coffee and drank half of it. Then he opened his laptop and looked up Elena's company. Winters Educational Consulting. Bridging the gap between policy and practice in public education. The website was clean and well-designed. Professional. 22 employees listed. 63 school district partnerships. A press page with citations in education journals and regional newspapers. Her photo on the About page. Dark blazer. Natural hair. Eyes direct at the camera. She had built it from nothing. While taking care of 3 children. While sending 17 emails he had never opened. He called his mother that evening. She answered on the first ring. Marcus, she said. Not a greeting. More like an acknowledgement. Like she had been waiting. You saw, he said. Everyone saw, she said. He told her everything. The board meeting 5 years ago. The ultimatum. His choice. The divorce. The years of pretending he had made the right decision. The ballroom in Atlanta. Caleb's question. Elena's face. His mother was quiet for a long time when he finished. That poor woman, she said finally. I know, Marcus said. No, his mother said. I don't think you fully know yet. But you will. I resigned, Marcus said. This morning. Good, his mother said. He paused. Good. It was already gone, baby, she said. Whatever you thought you had there, it was already gone. You've known that for a while. He didn't argue. What are you going to do now? She asked. I'm going to call Elena, he said. When she's ready. She said she'd call me in a few days. And then whatever she'll let me do, he said. Start somewhere. Show up. Whatever it takes. That's right, his mother said. Call me when you know something. Elena called on a Tuesday, 4 days after the conference. Marcus was sitting at his kitchen table drinking coffee and looking at his resignation letter from Nexus Capital, which the firm had officially accepted with a brief and formal press statement, when his phone rang. He answered immediately. Hi, he said. Hi, she said. The pause. How are the kids? He asked. They're fine, she said. Caleb has asked about you 3 times. Grace drew a picture of what she thinks our conversation in the lobby looked like. She showed me this morning. It's quite detailed. She's artistic? Marcus asked. Extremely, Elena said. God knows where she gets it. Something quiet passed between them. I want to be in their lives, Marcus said. I know I don't deserve a chance. I know I have to earn everything. I know you've been doing this alone for 5 years and you don't need me and they're fine without me. I know all of that. But, Elena said, but I want to try, he said. If you let me, whatever that looks like, whatever rules you have, I'll follow them. A long pause. If I let you in, Elena said, and you hurt them, if you disappoint them, if you make them promises you don't keep, if you show up 3 times and then get busy and stop showing up, I will remove you from their lives and I will not feel bad about it. I understand, he said. Once, she said. 1 chance. That's all. I understand, he said again. Where are you living? She asked. Still at the penthouse for now, he said. But I'm not staying in Baltimore. I need to be wherever you are. Another pause. We're in Philadelphia, she said. I moved back 2 years ago. My mother's here. I'll find an apartment in Philadelphia, Marcus said. This week. Don't rush it, she said. Find something decent. The kids don't need to see you living in a box. It'll worry Grace. Okay, he said. Saturday, she said. 2 weeks from now. Come to our house at 10 in the morning. 1 hour. That's all. I'll be there, he said. Don't be late, she said. I won't. She gave him the address and hung up. Marcus set his phone down. He sat at his kitchen table in the Baltimore penthouse he was about to leave and he felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Not happiness exactly. Something that came before happiness. The recognition that happiness was possible. That there was a direction to move in. He opened his laptop. He started looking for apartments in Philadelphia. He moved 2 weeks before the Saturday visit. The apartment was in a neighborhood called Fishtown, 20 minutes from Elena's house. 1 bedroom. A small living room. A kitchen big enough for 1 person who cooked simple things. Nothing like the penthouse. He liked it immediately. He bought a couch and a bed and a kitchen table with 2 chairs. He did not buy art or rugs or any of the things that had filled his previous homes. It felt better empty. Simpler. Like a room he was still deciding how to inhabit. He called the tech startup in Philadelphia that had emailed him 3 weeks earlier. They had reached out through a mutual contact. 15 employees. Software tools for nonprofits and school districts. Exactly the kind of company Elena's clients used. He took the interview. The founder, a woman named Dr. Sarah Obi, was 42 and had run the company for 7 years. I'll be honest with you, she said, across the table in a small conference room that smelled of coffee and whiteboards. Half my board didn't want me to bring you in. The scandal, the situation with your ex-wife, the whole thing. It's a lot. I understand, Marcus said. The other half said your actual track record at Nexus Capital is extraordinary, she said. So I'm deciding based on what I see in front of me. That's fair, he said. She studied him for a moment. Why here, she said. You could consult. You could go to a bigger firm. Why a 15-person startup? Because my children's mother's clients use tools like yours, Marcus said. Because I want to be useful in a way that's connected to something real. Because I need to be in Philadelphia and I need work that lets me be present at 10 a.m. on a Saturday when I need to be. Dr. Obi looked at him. $140,000 a year, she said. Director of Operations. You'll work on systems and client relationships and whatever I need you for. Yes, Marcus said. You don't want to negotiate? No, he said. I just want to work. I need to stay in Philadelphia. I need to be close to my children. She nodded once. Monday morning, she said. Don't be late. Saturday came. Marcus had not slept well. He had been awake since 5. He showered and dressed and made coffee he barely touched and drove to Elena's neighborhood too early and sat in his car 2 streets away for 45 minutes until it was time. Elena's house was a 2-story row home on a quiet street. Red brick. Dark green door. A small front step with a pot of something green and growing by the door. 3 pairs of small shoes lined up on the step. He looked at those shoes for a long time. He rang the bell at exactly 10 o'clock. He heard feet on the stairs inside. More than one set. Running. Elena opened the door. She was in jeans and a cream-colored sweater. Her hair was down. She looked like herself in the way that people look like themselves when they are in their own home on a Saturday morning and not performing anything for anyone. She looked at him. You're on time, she said. You told me not to be late, he said. She stepped back. Come in, she said. The house was warm and a little loud in the way that houses with children are loud. Not chaotic, just alive. There were drawings taped to the wall going up the staircase. Dozens of them. Crayon, marker, watercolor. Houses and animals and people and things that were clearly something specific to the child who made them but that Marcus couldn't quite interpret. There were 3 backpacks by the door. 1 purple, 1 blue, 1 covered in dinosaur stickers. There were books on every flat surface. Marcus stood in the entryway and breathed it in. Kids, Elena called up the stairs. Come down. The pause. Then 3 sets of feet on the stairs. Caleb came first. He was wearing jeans and a green sweater and he came down the stairs looking at Marcus the whole time, assessing, taking inventory. Grace came next. She had her hair in 2 puffs and she was carrying something in her hand. A folded piece of paper. Isaiah came last. He was still in pajama pants and a t-shirt and he looked like someone who had been awake for approximately 10 minutes and was not entirely sure how he felt about it. They stood at the bottom of the stairs and looked at Marcus. Marcus looked at them. Hi, he said. Hi, said Isaiah. He yawned. Hi, said Grace. She held out the folded paper. I made this for you. Marcus took it. He unfolded it. It was a drawing. Crayon and marker. 5 figures standing in what appeared to be a hotel lobby, based on the chandelier in the background. 3 small figures. 1 tall woman. 1 tall man. The man was labeled, in careful blocky letters, Dad. Marcus looked at the word. He looked at Grace. Thank you, he said. His voice was not entirely steady. You can keep it, she said seriously. I made it specifically for you. I will keep it forever, he said. She seemed satisfied with this. They went into the living room. Elena sat on the armchair near the window. Not joining them. Not leaving either. Present and watchful, the way a person watches something that matters. Marcus sat on the floor. It seemed like the right thing to do. He didn't want to loom over them. He wanted to be at their level. Caleb sat across from him on the rug. Cross-legged. Still watching. Grace sat beside Marcus and showed him her drawings one by one. She had a system. She kept them in a folder with her name written on the front in 3 different colors. Each drawing was dated in the bottom right corner. "This one is our street," she said, showing him a drawing of row houses. "This one is my class at school. This one is Isaiah at his soccer game. This one is," she paused. "This one is what I imagined our dad looked like." Marcus looked at the drawing. The figure was tall with brown skin and glasses. Marcus did not wear glasses. "I gave you glasses," Grace said, "because teachers usually wear glasses. I thought maybe you were a teacher." "I'm not a teacher," Marcus said, "but I think you're right that teachers are important." "My mom was a teacher," Grace said, "before the business." "I know," Marcus said. Grace looked at him. "Did you know her when she was a teacher?" she asked. "Yes," Marcus said. "I did." Grace absorbed this. "Was she good at it?" she asked. "She was extraordinary at it," Marcus said. Grace nodded as if this confirmed something she had already known. Isaiah had found a soccer ball from somewhere. He was bouncing it off his knee in the corner of the room, counting under his breath. 14, 15, 16. The ball went sideways and hit the wall. He retrieved it. Started again. "Do you play soccer?" Marcus asked him. Isaiah looked up. "Yeah." "Are you good?" "I'm okay." The pause. "Caleb says I'm better than him, but Caleb doesn't like soccer." "I like chess," Caleb said from across the rug. It was the first thing Caleb had said since they sat down. "Do you?" Marcus said. "Do you know how to play?" Caleb asked. "I can learn," Marcus said. Caleb looked at him. "I'll teach you," he said. Not warmly, but not unwarmly either. Like an offer made by someone who hadn't fully decided whether to make it. "I'd like that," Marcus said. The hour passed faster than Marcus expected. It passed in the particular way that hours pass when you are paying full attention to something. When you are not checking your phone or thinking about the next meeting or calculating what comes next. When the only thing in front of you is the thing in front of you. Grace showed him 34 drawings. Isaiah demonstrated his current record of 22 consecutive knee bounces. Caleb explained the rules of chess in the careful, thorough way of someone who has strong opinions about things being done correctly. Elena sat in the armchair and watched. She did not intervene. She did not mediate. She let the children be themselves and let Marcus find his way and only spoke to offer Isaiah a snack when he asked. At 11 o'clock exactly she said, "Okay, it's time." The children looked at Marcus. Grace carefully put her drawings back in their folder. Isaiah bounced the soccer ball once more and caught it. Caleb unfolded himself from the rug. "Will you come back?" Grace asked. Marcus looked at Elena. "If your mom says it's okay," he said. Elena looked at the three of them. Then at Marcus. "Next Saturday," she said. "Same time." Marcus walked to his car. He sat in the driver's seat and held Grace's drawing in both hands and looked at the figure labeled Dad. He sat there for a long time. He had been in that house for 1 hour. 1 hour out of the 26,000 he had missed. He thought about Elena's 17 emails. He thought about Caleb coming down the stairs watching him, making his assessment, deciding whether this person was worth the trouble. He thought about Isaiah counting his knee bounces. He thought about Grace handing him the drawing and saying, "I made it specifically for you." He put his head on the steering wheel. He allowed himself, for a few minutes, to feel the full weight of what he had lost and what he was trying to find his way back to and how long it was going to take and how uncertain the outcome still was. Then he sat up. He started the car. He drove back to his apartment and hung Grace's drawing on the wall in his kitchen, right at eye level, where he would see it every morning. He came back the next Saturday. And the one after that. And the one after that. Every Saturday at 10 a.m. for 4 months without exception. He was never late. He never canceled. He never called to say something had come up because nothing was allowed to come up, because he had decided that Saturday at 10 was the single most fixed point in his week and everything else arranged itself around it. In October, he attended Isaiah's soccer game. He stood on the sideline in the rain with the other parents and watched Isaiah run and pass and score a goal from the left side of the box that made the coach yell and the other kids cheer. Afterward, Isaiah ran off the field and found his mother first, the way children always find their mothers first, and then he looked around and found Marcus standing behind her. "Did you see?" Isaiah said. "I saw," Marcus said. Isaiah looked at him. Something shifted slightly in his expression. "Good," he said. Then he went back to his teammates. In November, Elena said he could take the children to the park on his own. 1 hour. The park 4 blocks from the house. She would have her phone. Marcus took them. Grace held his hand on the walkover. She did this without comment, without ceremony, just reached up and took his hand when they stepped off the front step, the way a child holds the hand of an adult they trust to keep them safe. Marcus felt the smallness of her hand in his and did not speak for almost a full block. Caleb walked beside him with his hands in his pockets and talked about a chess tournament at his school and the strategies he was planning to use. Isaiah ran ahead and came back and ran ahead again. At the park, Marcus pushed Grace on the swings while Caleb explained more chess strategy, and Isaiah made friends with 3 children he had never met and organized them into a game he invented on the spot. They walked home in the early afternoon light. On the front step, Grace hugged Marcus around the waist. It was the first time any of them had hugged him. She released him and ran inside before he could respond. Marcus stood on the front step. He looked at the door she had disappeared through. He stood there for a moment in the autumn afternoon. Then he drove home and called his mother and didn't trust himself to start the sentence, so he just said her name and she said, "I know, baby. I know." In December, 3 months after the first visit, Marcus brought a chess set. He and Caleb sat across from each other at the kitchen table while Grace, Drew, and Isaiah watched videos on a tablet with headphones on. Caleb taught Marcus the opening moves with the gravity of someone transmitting ancient knowledge. He corrected Marcus twice without condescension. He beat Marcus in 11 moves the first game and 14 the second. "You're getting better," Caleb said. "You're a good teacher," Marcus said. Caleb looked at him. "My mom is a better teacher," he said. "But you're okay to teach." "That's the best compliment I've gotten in a long time," Marcus said. Caleb almost smiled. Almost. In January, Elena increased the visits to twice a week. Saturdays as before. And Wednesday evenings after school, from 4 to 6. Marcus reorganized everything else in his life around those 2 time slots. Meetings at work. Phone calls. Anything that could have been on a Wednesday afternoon was moved. Sarah Obi had been told on his first day that Wednesdays at 4 were unavailable, and she had looked at him and said that was fine. Wednesday evenings he helped with homework. Caleb's homework was always done before Marcus arrived, completed in the 20 minutes after school with methodical focus. He sometimes brought it to show Marcus anyway, not for help, but as a form of conversation. Grace's homework took longer. She was not interested in math. She was interested in the stories she could draw in the margins of her math worksheets. "Grace," Marcus said one Wednesday in February, "if there are 12 apples and Isaiah eats 4, Isaiah wouldn't eat 4 apples," Grace said. "He doesn't like apples. He likes oranges." "If there are 12 oranges, why would someone have 12 oranges?" "Grace." She giggled. He was startled by how much he liked the sound of it. "8, she said. "The answer is 8. I know. I just wanted to talk about the oranges." He looked at her. She looked back at him with Elena's eyes. He thought, "I would have loved this. I would have loved every minute of this." He said, "Get the next problem." She got the next problem. Spring came. Marcus had been visiting for 8 months. He was at the kitchen table with the children one Wednesday afternoon in April when Elena came home from a meeting and stood in the doorway and looked at the four of them. Grace was showing Marcus a drawing she was working on. Caleb was reading and occasionally making corrections to a chess problem he had written out on a piece of paper. Isaiah was doing something extremely complicated with a piece of string that was apparently a knot technique his soccer coach had shown him. Marcus was aware of Elena in the doorway. He was aware of the moment. He looked up. She was looking at the scene in the kitchen with an expression he couldn't entirely read. She put her bag down. She made tea. She sat at the far end of the table and opened her laptop. They sat together in the kitchen, the five of them, while the light outside changed from afternoon to evening and the sound in the room was quiet and specific. Pencil on paper, pages turning, string whisking through fingers. Marcus did not say anything. He did not need to. In May, Caleb called him Dad for the first time. They were playing chess in the living room. Marcus had been improving, slowly and steadily, in the way that improvement happens when someone better than you takes the time to teach you properly. He made a move he had been planning for 3 turns. Caleb looked at the board. He looked at Marcus. "That was actually good, Dad," he said. Then he looked up. His expression went still. He said. "It's okay," Marcus said. Quickly. Gently. "You can call me that. If you want." Caleb looked at the board. He picked up his bishop and moved it. "Check," he said. He did not use the word again that afternoon. But he had used it once. And the once was enough. In June, a full year after Marcus had walked into the Atlanta ballroom and seen 3 children with his face, Elena called him on a Sunday evening. "I want to talk to you about something," she said. "Okay," he said. "Not about the kids," she said. He waited. "About what actually happened 5 years ago," she said. "I've never asked you to explain it. I told you what you missed and you told me the board gave you an ultimatum and I didn't want to go deeper than that because I was still angry and I didn't trust myself to have the conversation properly." "And now?" he asked. "And now I want to know," she said. "All of it. Why you made the choice you made. Not what they told you to do. Why you believed them." He thought about it for a moment. "Can I come over?" he asked. "The kids are asleep," she said. "Yes." He drove to her house. She made tea and they sat at the kitchen table, the same kitchen table where he had helped with homework and played chess and listened to Grace talk about oranges. He told her everything. His father's warehouse job. His mother's sewing. The school trip he couldn't attend. The promise he had made himself at 12 years old in a house where the heat was sometimes off in January. The fear that had lived in him since he was a child. The bone-deep terror of going back to nothing. The way that fear had grown alongside everything else in him, had been there in every decision he made, had been the engine of everything. "When they gave me the ultimatum," he said, "I heard it as, this is your one chance. Miss this and you go back. And I was so afraid of going back that I chose the thing I was afraid of losing before I chose the person I loved." Elena looked at her tea. "I knew you were afraid," she said. "I knew it when we were together. I thought," she paused, "I thought I understood it. I thought I knew how to love you through it." "You did," he said. "That wasn't the problem. The problem was me." She was quiet for a moment. "You were 29 years old," she said. "And they gave you a folder with my father's incarceration in it and told you I didn't fit the image." "Yes," he said. "And you believed them," she said. He looked at her. "I was ashamed," he said. "That's the part I've had the hardest time saying out loud. I was ashamed that I was choosing money over you and I didn't want you to see that and so I made it about us instead. I said we want different things because I couldn't say I'm choosing a salary over you and I can't explain why I'm doing that except that I'm terrified." Elena nodded slowly. "I would have helped you," she said. "If you'd told me the truth. I would have been furious. but I would have helped you figure it out. I know, he said. I knew that then too. I think that's why I couldn't tell you. Because if I had, you would have helped me make the right choice, and I wasn't sure I was capable of making it. She looked at him for a long time. That's the most honest thing you've ever said to me, she said. It's taken me 5 years and 3 kids and losing everything I thought I wanted to be able to say it, he said. She smiled. Not a happy smile exactly, but real. Stay for a few minutes, she said. It's still early. He stayed. They talked for 2 hours. Not about the children. Not about logistics or schedules or the future. About everything else. About the things they used to talk about at the beginning. Books and work and the strange particular way that cities changed at night. About her business and his new job and what it felt like to start something small after running something large. About his mother and her mother and the ways parents shape the fears you carry. It was late when he finally stood up to leave. Elena walked him to the door. She stood in the doorway and he stood on the step, and the spring air was warm and quiet around them. Marcus, she said. Yeah. I'm glad you're here, she said. In Philadelphia. I'm glad you show up. He looked at her. I should have always been showing up, he said. Yes, she said. But you're doing it now. He nodded. He walked down the step. He turned back once. She was still in the doorway. Elena, he said. Thank you for letting me try, he said. She looked at him for a moment. Thank you for actually trying, she said. She closed the door. Summer arrived. The children were out of school and the city was hot and loud and alive. Elena's mother, Miss Gloria, had taken to leaving the porch door open in the evenings, and sometimes when Marcus came over he could smell something cooking from the sidewalk. He was a fixture now. Not in the way he had imagined fatherhood would look, once. Not the version where you are present from the beginning and everything is built on an unbroken foundation. He was a fixture in the way of something that had been added later. Something that worked, that held weight, that had proven itself over time, but that everyone could see had been added later if they looked closely. He was learning to be at peace with that. He helped Isaiah practice for his fall soccer season in the small backyard on Sunday mornings. He played chess with Caleb on Wednesday evenings. He helped Grace assemble a book of her drawings, 40 of them, for a school project, and they spent 3 Saturdays organizing and labeling and deciding together which ones should be on which page. He had dinner with all of them most Sundays. Miss Gloria had started saving him a plate. He did not take this lightly. In August, Caleb came to him with a school assignment. It was a family history project. 3 generations. He needed to write about his grandparents on both sides. He knocked on the door of the small room Marcus used for his home office when he had the kids on weekends. I need to ask you some things for school, Caleb said. Marcus turned his chair around. Caleb sat on the small couch by the window with a notebook and a pencil. Tell me about your parents, Caleb said. The professional seriousness with which he approached things he cared about was still intact. Still exactly like Elena in that. Marcus told him. His father. The warehouse. West Philadelphia. The school trip. The shoes with holes. The way his mother had looked under the lamp late at night with the sewing. Caleb wrote it all down. He asked 3 follow-up questions. Then he said, "Were you ashamed of where you came from?" Marcus looked at him. "Yes," he said. "For a long time." "Are you now?" Caleb asked. Marcus thought about it. "No," he said. "Not anymore." Caleb wrote something in his notebook. "Why not?" he asked. Marcus was quiet for a moment. "Because I finally understand what my parents were doing," he said. "They weren't failing. They were surviving. And surviving with that much difficulty and that much love is something to be proud of. Not ashamed of." Caleb looked at what he had written. "Can I use that?" he asked. "Yes," Marcus said. It's yours. Fall came back. 1 year since Atlanta. Marcus sat in Elena's kitchen on a Sunday afternoon while Grace showed him her latest drawings and Caleb beat him at chess again and Isaiah practiced the knot technique he was still trying to master. Elena came in from the backyard where she had been on a work call. She set her phone on the counter. She looked at the kitchen. She poured herself coffee. She sat at the table. How's the new client? Marcus asked. Complicated, she said. They know what they want but not why they want it. I'll figure it out. You always do, he said. She looked at him over her coffee cup. Don't be sycophantic, she said. It wasn't sycophancy, he said. It was a statement of observed fact. She almost smiled. Grace looked up from her drawing. Mom, she said. Is Marcus staying for dinner? Elena looked at Marcus. Marcus looked at Elena. That depends, Marcus said carefully, on whether your mom wants company. Elena was quiet for a moment. There's enough, she said. Grace went back to her drawing. I need 3 more colors, she said. The orange, the dark blue, and the one that's sort of purple-gray. They're in the drawer, Elena said. I know where they are, Grace said. I just like saying it. Marcus looked at her. He thought, I have heard her say that before. That exact phrase, that exact delivery. I have been here long enough to recognize the things she says and how she says them. I know my daughter. The thought was not triumphant. It was quiet and precise and the truest thing he had thought in a very long time. He reached across the table and opened the drawer. He took out the orange and the dark blue and the one that was sort of purple-gray. He put them in front of Grace. She picked them up without looking because she already knew they'd be there. Marcus thought sometimes about the man he had been in that conference room on the 40th floor. He thought about the fear that had driven him. The promise he had made to a 12-year-old boy in a house with a flickering lamp and shoes with holes in them. He understood that boy. He forgave that boy, even. But he understood now what that boy had gotten wrong. He had thought that success was a destination, a number on a contract, a view from a corner office, a name on a banner, the absence of the things that had humiliated him as a child. He had not understood that those things could be true and mean nothing. He had not understood what it felt like to sit at a kitchen table in the autumn afternoon and put a crayon in a child's hand and have her take it without looking because she already knew it would be there. He had not understood that this ordinary, specific, irreplaceable this, was what he had been working toward all along and hadn't known it. Grace finished her drawing. She held it up. 5 figures. Brown and warm. A kitchen in the background, recognizable by the yellow walls and the overflowing bookshelf and the drawer that was always open a little. Caleb. Isaiah. Chris. And one more. The figure on the right was tall. Labeled in Grace's careful blocky letters, without a question mark, Dad. Marcus looked at it. He looked at Grace. She was watching him with Elena's eyes. Well, she said. It's beautiful, he said. I know, she said. I made it for you. You can put it next to the other one. He took it. He held it carefully. He thought about the first drawing. The one from the hotel lobby with the question mark. He thought about how long the distance was between that question mark and this. And how worth it every single step had been. Success is not the corner office. It is not the stock options or the title or the magazine cover or the salary your 12-year-old self could not have imagined. Those things can be real and earned and still leave you standing at a window at midnight wondering what you're missing. Success is the crayon you know to put in the right drawer. It is the child who takes it without looking. It is the second chance you did not deserve and the years of showing up that you gave in return. It is the table you sit at on Sunday afternoons, not because you built the house or paid for the table, but because you earned the right to sit there, one Wednesday, one Saturday, one ordinary moment at a time. Marcus had learned all of it the hard way. He had paid for the lesson with 5 years he could not get back, and a family he had to rebuild from scratch, and a silence that had lived in him for years where something living should have been. He would keep paying for it. Every week. Every visit. Every homework problem. Every chess game. Every drawing taken carefully and hung where he would see it every morning. He would keep paying. And it would always be worth it. Because they were worth it. They had always been worth it. He had just been too afraid to know it.